life is looking good and the future looks bright. Gonna let my wife finish first tonight. I'm a changed man with a new lease on life. Hey, asshole! Don't put your dog's feces in my trash can. That's from my feces. And my family's feces, not yours. Fuck off.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak. I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame death party!
To ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I begin trekking into the American holidays coming up soon. I'm pretty sure Thanksgiving is next weekend for you people, which means Black Friday is coming up. We will have a special coming out for that on the Prototype next week, but I'm not alone as I trek through the weirdness that is the news, entertainment, and strangeness that has happened around the world this week. I'm joined with
Alex, the producer.
So, it has been a week here at the TWIG studios. Well, just before the show went live, yesterday, we are recording this on Sunday, I chipped a tooth and had something significant.
Oh, joy.
Oh my God, did that scare the hell out of me. So my wife is looking at it thinking, yeah, you're going to have to see a dentist and that may have to get pulled. Luckily, I've still got a filling in there. So that's terrifying.
Just fill it with cement and you'll be fine.
Like, oh my God, I've never had that happen. Like, I had something happen this morning. I'm thinking, I'm not liking how that's feeling. It's been like this for like a day or two.
So you think it was cracked and then it finally broke off?
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm guessing. So she's like, don't freak out. Don't worry. This happens every day to everybody in the world. Don't worry about it.
Well,
so
not to everybody all at once, but yes, everybody experiences something to that extent at one point in their life or not.
Plus, I am almost 40 years old. So just that is the situation that we find ourselves in.
When you see the dentist ask, when am I going to get my old people teeth in?
Yeah,
it's like,
no.
But isn't it too bad that we don't get 3 teeth? Like you get the first set of teeth for what, like 6 years, and then the rest are supposed to last you for 100.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just one of those weird.
Like when can we get our like middle-aged teeth, and then that takes us to the end?
The fault in our biology, I guess.
Well,
other news...
people used to only live to be 30, so in the caveman times, right?
Yeah. So other news to talk about. We do have something important to mention off the top of the show. Okay, so we had promised we were going to do a giveaway for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War on the Xbox One Series X, code-wise. We are postponing that, and we're also postponing our review of Call of Duty across PS5 and Xbox Series X, as we have both experienced major technical problems during our reviews.
Mine was pretty catastrophic in that it didn't just corrupt the game, it erased it, and I had to do like a factory reset on my system.
Yeah, and I've been reading the subreddit, I've been reading Twitter, and since Treyarch released a patch, Alex was having problems pre-patch, I'm having problems post-patch.
Yeah, we are playing on different systems. I'm on the PlayStation 5. I was also playing with family who also have a digital copy on PlayStation 5. They can't get local multiplayer to work when it's a feature that's advertised at all. It crashes their entire system. It gives them UI error codes. They've even had single player missions started to crash after the patch came out, where I played it before the patch. So the patch broke things as well.
Yeah.
It fixed some things and then broke other things that weren't broken before.
Yeah. So we are going to hold our review until Activision and Treyarch addresses the issue. The subreddit for Black Ops Cold War has not been a fun place to be if you are a next generation player.
So we're giving it a week or so. Like, we're not going to postpone it indefinitely. It's just, we're giving them a little bit of leeway to get some bugs fixed as best they can. And if, we can't give them a month, because then at that point it's like, well, that's not the game that was released.
Well, yeah, because I know in the next week or two, Nuketown comes this weekend for the game, so I really hope they get their stuff figured out. And season 1 of the Battle Pass starts the first or second week of December, along with their version of Warzone. So I'm going to wait and see.
Because as it stands, Warzone, to play it on current gen,
is the Modern Warfare version.
Yeah, it forces that to be installed, and you're looking at about 400 gigs taken up on your hard drive.
Yeah, it is not a fun time. So we're going to hold things.
Yeah, because you're basically having to have 2 games on there, so that until they fix, until we get direction as to whether or not that's being fixed, because we're sort of waiting, twiddling our thumbs, being like, so is that fixed?
Yeah, which is really unfortunate, because I've played probably about 6 to 7 hours of multiplayer, and I'm really having a fun time. I was actually playing it just before my crashes last night.
I haven't been able to play multiplayer because of this, but single player I did straight through, no issues, before the patch came out.
Yeah,
so we have very different opinions based on those factors, but till we can all play all the modes, so we can all be on the same page, then there's no point in me reviewing a single player mode that may not work anymore, and you reviewing a multiplayer mode that I haven't had a chance to actually play because it corrupts and deletes my saves.
Yeah, so we will find out and see what happens with this. So stay tuned for that. In other interesting news for me, I've been talking with my sister Katie, and as you guys both know, we found each other through Ancestry.com earlier this year. She's my half sister. We don't know who our father is, and we've been doing some research with that. We may have struck pay dirt. We are waiting on some tidbits to be collaborated right now. We're still sorting through some material, but we may have found a link. There's even a possibility of conversation. So who knows? Don't want to say too much more than that because I don't want to jinx it, but I don't know, man. 2020 has certainly been a trip. So anyway, outside of that, Alex, how has your week been?
I have been on IT duty. I'm trying to avoid as much travel as possible, but I did get a call from my mother saying, I need some IT help. Are you willing to come over for a couple days? And I went, why? She had taken a new job, and the job requires a lot more work from home, obviously, because she works doing activities with the elderly at old age homes. And she's like, I don't know how to use Zoom. And I went, oh, my mom is not technically inclined. And she's like, it keeps dropping my calls. And I said, it's probably because your internet's been crap for 3 years since you moved into this new house. No, it's not. I don't need new internet. I said, does your work say you need new internet? My work says I need more reliable internet. So I helped organize going from an older DSL line to a cable internet line, which they didn't even know if they had cable coming into the house. I had to fish through the rafters to find where it came in. And then we organized it. We were able to get it all hooked up within 3 days, which is amazing that they were able to do a rough job, but had to order routers, that Wi-Fi router system. So it's like 3, one on each, one in the one corner of the house upstairs, one in the bottom right corner, and one in the center. So that it's sort of like a pyramid of Wi-Fi. So the whole house is blanketed. So there's no dead zones anymore. She gets 5 or 6 times the speed she was getting for the same price because, change is scary. And I had to be on phone with tech support for like a half hour to an hour because when signing her up, I was told, take care of everything. Okay. Sign her up, put her email in, and she decided not to check her email for 2 days, not realizing that you have to verify the account for them to actually, activate your internet. And then it timed out because they thought it was a fraudulent setup using her credit card without her signing up on the website. And I was like, So got all that sorted, even got her to be on the phone to give the tech support people to put my name on file. I'm the designated contact person for any issues regarding it. And after getting the modem hooked up, the routers and everything, I can say that we're now in the 21st century, and it doesn't feel like 2001 anymore in here.
Oh, wow.
So it was one of those cases of like, try avoiding travel. But this was a case of, if I don't travel, she doesn't get to work, because she wouldn't have known. Like they came, they give you the modem, right? And usually the techs come in the house. Not with COVID. They're not allowed to come in your house. So they hand it to you and say, plug it in. And she would have been like, where? It's one of those situations. So it's a good thing I was here. So I'm, recording with you in, I guess, the remote, I guess the Kitchener studio is my home. So this would this be like Field Studio 1?
Sort of like the Outpost studio.
Yeah, it's a satellite campus. But we're working. The Wi-Fi seems to be reliable. This means that nothing's dropped, and I'm happy. So that's been my crazy hectic week, is getting all this working, and more importantly, she can now use Zoom and actually not have the calls drop 4 times in a single call.
Good. So that is good to hear. I'm trying to think of what else we should talk about. Things are changing rapidly. If you happen to live in southwestern Ontario, when you talk about COVID, as you mentioned about the technicians, certain areas in our region are now moving into the red zone, which means our local government has changed things to where you can travel, what businesses are open and closed, stuff like
everything
that.
is still technically open except for movie theaters. They completely shut down.
Restaurants are only takeout.
Yeah, here restaurants are 10 people.
Yeah,
Toronto. Yeah, Toronto starting Monday everything is basically shut down. They're back to where they were in June, where it was curbside pickup for everything.
Yeah, so it's not looking good. So this is going to be a very interesting holiday season, as the lockdown is supposed to last 28 days. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Toronto's in lockdown. They basically planned it, you notice, for the lockdown to end right before Christmas.
Yeah, because that's going to end well.
Well, not to mention that the surrounding areas that are within driving distance are not shut down. So there's a huge influx of people all gathering in the malls right on the outskirts of the GTA, which, that's going to help, right?
Yeah, of course.
They should just shut down malls. All indoor malls shut down. Oh, you can't deal with it? Too bad. They always talk about shopping local. I'm sorry, but the Sephora store is not a local business. There's not a single business in an indoor mall that is an independent mom and pop shop at all.
There's also this push by certain big retailers to deem them an essential business. I don't see why a bookstore like Indigo is an essential bookstore, or why EB Games is an essential business.
Walmart isn't an essential business unless they're a supercenter that has the grocery section. Yet they deem all of their stores as essential. There are Walmarts that have no groceries. Why are they open?
Well, they carry some groceries, but not the full range of stuff.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's, well, if you look at essentials are things you don't get, you don't pay tax on, which are things like milk, eggs, bread, things that are staples, things that are rice. I'm sorry, but you can't go. A frozen pizza is not essential.
Yeah. So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be a mess going into holiday season, no matter which way you do it. And we're not even going to touch the situation down south, because it just gets stupider every day.
Just know that it's not like, for all of our American listeners, obviously we weren't taking like, well, we're better than everybody else. No, it's we were taking things with, in Canada, we were doing better than the States, but not by much. And in the case here, we're saying we should do a more hardline stance of just shut down like some other countries are doing completely. We should do full lockdown again. If you want to have any chance of having Christmas with family, we should be locking down for the next 3 weeks. Yeah,
like there are friends of ours who post in one of the Discord servers, and they're from foreign countries, like I think New Zealand, Australia, places overseas.
I have family in parts of Germany and other parts of the world too, and even California, and like California is getting ready to shut down too.
Yeah,
so
not going to be a fun time out there, folks. So I guess our advice is be safe, do what you can, and hopefully we can get through this together.
Yes, and if they're saying, like, if your local government's doing the shop local thing, shop local does not mean shop at a mall. Shop local means shop at a mom and pop shop or Etsy or somebody that, they're saying try to avoid Amazon. The reason they're saying try to avoid Amazon is they don't want the traffic. They don't want so much overflow of mail from them. If you're going to, get gifts for people, maybe this is the time to make a gift. Maybe this is a time to, pick up something custom made on Etsy or one of those websites or smaller mom and pop shops where they like take a picture of you and they'll turn it into like a picture on socks or something. This is the time to do that sort of stuff, not to go to your favorite makeup store or, think that you have to flood the mall to go into Best Buy.
Yeah, so shop online or shop local if you can. Do what you can. Be smart. Anyway, folks, enough about that. We are going to be talking about a lot of cool things in this particular show. We got some news from the world of entertainment, comic books, video games, you name it. We're probably going to be talking about the strange and unusual. And as always, we have a couple of different reviews for you here up on the show. We're going to start things off with Alex's final look at Yakuza Like a Dragon on the Xbox Series X. We're also going to be talking about Modiphius' latest adventure for Star Trek Adventures with Back to Reality. And finally, Alex, what was the other element that you had ready for us?
Let me think. There's been so many I've recorded recently. I would assume this one will be the Mill Creek release of the Inner Sanctum Mysteries. It's like a proto television show movie series. Think like Columbo, but in the 1940s.
Ooh, so we will be taking a look at all that and more only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Once again, I have been Mike the Birdman. We will be back, guys, right after this review on the Xbox Series X.
Okay, I am back to talk my final thoughts on Yakuza Like a Dragon now that I've had a chance to play through more on the Xbox Series X. I don't have a Series S to do any comparisons to that platform, but I would imagine the results are sort of somewhere in between what we saw and experienced while playing on the One S that I had playing from the external SSD and what the, I guess, premier in quotes edition is currently, which is the Series X version. So by default, the normal mode, that is the visual mode that it starts out with, is the mode that provides the 60 FPS. I've had friends that say that they're fine with putting the fidelity mode on, the higher resolution mode, and lowering it to 30. But while that works great and looks great when you're in turn-based battles, I've found that when you're walking around crowds, it does hinder the experience. I do think they're right by default to keep it with the dynamic resolution mode that sort of locks everything as best it can to 60 FPS. There's plenty of other reviews out there at this point that are talking about the technical aspects. I'll just say that the default settings work perfectly fine for me, and it's better than that engine has ever worked on any previous platform. Short of when they've done remasters of things and putting things around. It is by far the most smooth experience. I'm not going to go into any plot spoilers simply because you have to experience this game to really appreciate how ridiculous it is and over the top it can be. It is one of the most ridiculous, charming, fun experiences I've had, and that's outside of it being a solid JRPG. Now, as far as, is there any other options audio-wise? Audio appears to be the same across any platform you play on. Controls are the same because it's like you're going from an older computer to upgrading to a newer one and playing the same game. That's the experience you get here. There isn't any ray tracing. I know HDR is on my TV, but it didn't appear to take advantage of anything like that. That being said, the game looks great, and now that you can play it on a 4K TV with game mode on, so low input latency, and you're looking around when you're walking around the city. There's a lot of little details that you can see and just appear better than playing it on previous gen. With the last gen, the cutscenes were almost unwatchable, and that's simply because it would stutter and the frame rate would drop into like 15, maybe even 20 frames per second. It was really rough. And transitioning from scenes where you're doing action into cutscenes were so jarring. The game would feel like it froze. And there's a couple hiccups here and there that could be tweaked, and as far as update patches go, we'll see what happens. But for the next gen, on the Series X, that is dramatically reduced and smoothed out. It's just overall a much more pleasant experience. I haven't encountered any glitches or bugs or hang-ups or anything to that extent. It didn't seem to install a much larger code base or anything. Everything seemed to just work smoother. There's been, I think, a single patch that I've seen come out that was just a day one patch that fixed some little issues here and there. But it is still a much smoother, more enjoyable experience playing it on next gen. If you got your hands on the Series X, it is pretty much the go-to title right now because there isn't a next gen version available on PlayStation yet. So it's sort of a timed exclusive, and it's one of the few that's on the Xbox platform that you can't get an experience on PlayStation like it yet. So it is one, if you've got that system and you don't plan on waiting for a PlayStation 5 version, it's definitely worth picking up because, as we know, it's sort of slim pickings when it comes to a lot of the cross-gen multi-plat games. It's one of the few that is, a AAA title that is right now at launch exclusive, next-gen exclusive to the Xbox. And if you're somebody who got an S, a Series S, I should say. Oof, that naming scheme. It is a much better experience from what I've seen online too than playing it previous gen. If you're stuck with anything, last gen, if you're stuck with like base consoles, the PS4 version would probably be a little better than the VCR/Xbox One S. But if you're somebody who can't get a console, and you're waiting to see what's coming or holding onto your money, and you've got a One X or a PlayStation 4 Pro, you'll get a decent experience, but to really experience it, the intended way to play right now would be playing it on a, I guess you could get it if you had a PS5 and you wanted to play the PS4 in back compat mode, but really it would be the Series S and Series X versions. Highly recommended. It's going to make our gift guide, probably going to make my top 10, well, for sure top 10, but it might even make my top 5 games of the year so far. We'll have to see. It's been a pretty good year for gaming, but that we'll be discussing later on when it comes to our holiday gift guide and end of year guides and who won and so on. But just figured I would do an update here just to give an idea that it is a dramatic improvement over how it played on last gen.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net, otherwise known as TWIG, the flagship of stupidity. I am still Mike the Birdman. He's the awesome producer. Well, let's talk about some of the things that happened around the world this past week that will impact your life in some nerdy or particularly stupid way. Okay, so some good news coming out of Variety.com. Wonder Woman 1984 to debut both on HBO Max and in theaters. Audiences will get to see Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas Day. After all, after much speculation, Warner Bros. Announced that the superhero sequel will debut on the streaming service HBO Max on December 25th, the same day it will open in U.S. movie theaters. Internationally, where HBO Max is not available, Wonder Woman 1984 will premiere in cinemas 1 week earlier on December 16th. The film will stream on HBO Max for a month at no additional cost to subscribers. As we navigate through these unprecedented times, we've had to be innovative in keeping our businesses moving forward while continuing to super serve our fans, said Ann Sarnoff, Chair and CEO of Warner Media Studios and Networks Group, which includes Warner Brothers Pictures. This is an amazing film that really comes to life on the big screen, and working with our partners in our exhibition community, we will provide that option to consumers in the U.S. where theaters are open. We realize that a ton of consumers can't go back to the movies due to the pandemic, so we also want to give them the option to see Wonder Woman 1984 via our HBO Max platform. The decision to forego a traditional theatrical release is surprising because Wonder Woman 1984 was expected to be one of the biggest films of 2020 and had the potential to surpass $1 billion in ticket sales. The $2 million budgeted movie was originally supposed to hit theaters this past summer. However, it was delayed time and time again amid the coronavirus crisis. Many were skeptical that Wonder Woman 1984 would keep the Christmas Day release since 50% of the U.S. cinemas are closed and people are still hesitant to see a movie in theaters. Industry experts assumed that, like Black Widow, Fast and the Furious 9, No Time to Die, and other potential blockbusters, Wonder Woman 1984 would be postponed until 2021. Yet the move to digital is not entirely unexpected. Earlier in the pandemic, Warner Brothers opted to send titles such as Scoob to premium video on demand and The Witches to HBO Max. Though not ideal for theater owners, Wonder Woman's hybrid release plan gives beleaguered multiplexes a lifeline. Normally, major cinema chains would refuse to showcase a big movie that is debuting simultaneously in theaters and at home. In fact, Universal Pictures received the brunt end of criticism after the studio decided to launch Trolls World Tour on digital services in April, when most cinemas were shuttered due to the pandemic. But months into a global health crisis and no end in sight, many theater operators are struggling to make ends meet, and they're desperate for new product to show. Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar emphasized the company's commitment to the exhibition community. Theater operators have been especially grateful to Warner Brothers during the pandemic because the studios took the bold move in the summer to open Christopher Nolan's Tenet in cinemas despite enormous headwinds facing the box office. We believe in our theaters because hundreds of millions of fans around the world value going to the movies, Kilar said in a statement. And for as long as fans seek out the theater experience, we will be there to serve them with great movies in partnership with our exhibitors. Debuting Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max instead of postponing the film until next year means foregoing substantial box office returns. But the hope is that offering a splashy tentpole will drive subscribers to HBO Max, which has struggled.
But I'll interject.
Yes.
That's only potential earnings if America actually gets their shit together, because they could go a whole other year without having any ticket returns. And
yeah,
then that will
things aren't
bankrupt
looking
them.
great. Yeah.
So you know what? Cut your losses and just go. Because I'm looking at local cinema chains here. They're still listing it at the 25th here. Toronto won't be open.
Nope.
So they've just lost, maybe 20% of all ticket sales for Canada for the GTA being closed?
Yeah, because I think where my sister lives in Montreal, they're probably under kind of similar mandates. So Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver.
Though between those three areas, Calgary will be open because they don't care. But between those three metropolitan areas, that's like 40% of all the ticket goers, or 50% in Canada. Even if our regions here are open, I don't think they'll be open by the 16th. They might be open on the 25th. So it'll be interesting. If they're not open, I predict, they haven't announced it, that Cineplex, which shuttered its doors this past, I think, Thursday before the announcement, same with Landmark, they may work out a deal where it becomes premium VOD through one of their streaming services here.
Which is what they should do. I mean, honestly, this year, despite all the terrible things that have happened to the entertainment industry, this would have been a chance for them to test things out. Honestly, Wonder Woman 1984 going to HBO Max, smart move. Mulan going to Disney Plus as premium VOD. It's going to become free next month. Good idea, bad movie. If you did that with Black Widow, it would have been substantially more successful.
Yeah, pandering movie to communist government. Beyond I tried watching it, my jaw was dropped. It's like, they didn't make this for an international audience. They made it for the Chinese market. Even the style of how the filming is portrayed, it almost looks like they had the Chinese government filming it with them. And then bring into it a lot of changes they had to make to appease censors in China. It's like, why'd you even bother releasing it here? Like, it's not a Western movie anymore, or an internationally minded movie. And then, never mind the fact that the acting was terrible. The actors had said some pretty horrible shit publicly. It was a disaster to begin with. I don't even know how they thought they could make money on the premium side of it. It should have just been free.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it should have been a good. If they did release it free. Now, again, I'm not any analyst. I can only tell you what I see in terms of trends. It would have been interesting to see if people would have saw it just to track movement, because they did do it earlier this year, kind of with Onward, but Onward was in theaters for a very short time.
One weekend, I saw it with my mom for her birthday, and then 2 days after we saw it, they shut down all theaters.
And then you could buy it for about a month, premium, and then it was available to stream in April.
It's also a very good movie.
Yeah, it's an astounding movie.
Very good movie. Makes a lot of people cry because it's that good, and not like we're gonna fake these emotions to make you cry. It's just a well-written movie.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to watch it around my wife because that was not too long after my father-in-law passed away. So
yeah, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, remarkably well written. And I know Disney is launching Soul, I think next month as well. I would have done
that's Christmas as well.
Yeah. So, and WandaVision is not opening this year; it's opening next year. So, Mandalorian finishes up around Christmas time, and then Soul opens up.
Yeah, I think Soul opens up a day or two after. I think it's right on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would have went with Black Widow, but then again, they probably wouldn't want to cannibalize the audience in November because Mando just started at the end of October. So I see why they're doing that.
They don't want to put Black Widow on that service and then find out that Wonder Woman destroys it.
That's another theory that I hadn't considered. I mean, because Wonder Woman is arguably the more popular character, but they're also
better actress, better written, more interesting story. The Black Widow looks, other than having the Russian family aspect of it, it looks very generic.
I don't know. I'm in it because I've read the Black Widow books this summer.
I'm excited to watch. I'm saying, but to a general audience person, it doesn't. What is it about? What does it stand out? Like, it doesn't have that hook that 84 has.
I think the thing that a lot of it's depending on is it's a Marvel movie, and Marvel has destroyed DC at the box office.
Yeah, but it's also not being released at the box office. You know what I'm saying? Like I think they're afraid optics wise that even if Warner is putting half on digital and then half in theaters, that they will get destroyed because they're going to merge. What they will count is how many people signed up. They'll count every single person that is currently paying for HBO Max that month. Every single person that signs up that month extra will be counted towards the ticket sales, and then the ticket sales. So it'll be a somewhat inflated number, but maybe not 100% inaccurate, considering how inaccurate
it's Hollywood math, right?
Yeah, considering how inaccurate the Nielsen numbers are, that it's literally like 1% of the country, and they have a margin of error of like 5%. So what you're telling me is that there could be literally nobody watching, but they'll still give it a rating. So it's better than that. But if on paper, if they're like, hey, we pulled in 100 million box office US, and then the other big factor is Black Widow is going to that service worldwide. Wonder Woman will have a large release in the rest of the world that has the pandemic under control. And just like Tenet, what you'll see is maybe 30 million US. They'll be like, that's abysmal. And then you'll see like 700 million for the rest of the world. So they don't want for them to come out the same time, which they were sort of, I think, weren't they both coming out around Christmas originally?
No, Black Widow was November originally from a May release, then it got moved to July,
and then November.
Wonder Woman went from June to August to October, and then to now.
Yeah, and I think people were saying that they should put out Black Widow at Christmas, and it's like, if they did that though, what you would see is they probably wouldn't report anything, but they might say, hey, look, we had 2 million people watch it or something. Okay, that's nice. 2 million people times $10 or whatever a month. And you're like, oh, it made 20 million, or maybe let's say it made $50 million in their heads when Wonder Woman will make 500 million minimum with the international market. So it's going to be a success. And then they're like, fuck it, we'll cut our losses in the US and Canada and then work from there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be, we're seeing the traditional movie experience change as we're seeing Amazon has kind of moved into it now, especially with the release of Borat 2 that came out last month.
Yep,
Coming to America 2 is coming out in March now.
Apple's picking up movies that were going to go to theaters and they're putting them on their service. So you're fine. They're cherry picking some of the smaller titles where it's like they're like, hey, we predicted this movie was only going to make $7 to $12 million in theaters for an indie picture. They'll go, okay, we'll give you the $12 million, and now it's exclusive to Apple Plus. And so they make what the predicted money would be, which is all that the investors care about. So, if it's not a big budget picture, the traditional indie film is still put together by like raising money for it, right? So if these investors are like, they were told you'll probably get a $7 million return on investment, 7 to 12, and you could get more if it becomes a big, sleeper hit, right? But if Apple says we'll give you the 12 right now, during the pandemic, all these investors are taking the money. So, we're losing in quotes, how large the market potential was, but they're getting guaranteed money. So you're going to see a lot of that from Netflix. You won't see it really from Hulu because who knows what's going on with them. But like Netflix, Amazon, Apple, you'll see Disney pulling their own sort of stuff. You're going to see NBC and Universal pulling some of their Universal stuff. Don't be surprised if Peacock starts getting some of their movies that were going to come out. You're probably going to start seeing stuff like the Blumhouse movies that are, I think a lot of them come through Universal. You'll start seeing a lot of that stuff showing day and date on Peacock because those movies only cost like $1 to $2 million to make. So that's a nothing deal. Like for them, they're like, oh, we could have made $30 million or maybe $100 million or whatever the Invisible Man made, right? But they're like, if they want to get you hooked on subscribing now, because a subscription is a guaranteed certain amount of money, whereas there's so much uncertainty in theaters that everybody is watching Disney and Warner, I think, this holiday season to see what happens, because they're really the two big movie companies. Because look what happened with I was going to say GoldenEye, with 007. They've been holding out trying to sell it, and the talk now is that MGM might go bankrupt from holding out. So it is what it is.
Yeah, we will certainly see what happens to our favorite superheroes and other big action things and other movies in general in the coming months ahead. I'm sure we'll find a way to see Wonder Woman. I will not see this in theaters. It is not worth risking my health.
Yeah, like I'm going to see what my region's like. I'm going to see I'll follow what I did last time, which was if I'm the only person in the entire theater, I'm probably okay. And if I can cancel up to an hour before the movie is released, like before I would have to see it, I can do that. Great. Otherwise, we've got to find a way to watch it premium, because there's no way they're going to cut out the Canadian market or expect theatrical only here if all the markets are closed.
Yeah, so we will find out, and coverage will be coming to that soon. Okay, Absolutely. So moving out of the movie business, going back to video game, this story comes courtesy of PersonaCentral.com. Asian retailers list English version of Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers, for 2021 release. Several Asian retailers have created listings for an English release of Persona 5 Scramble, the Phantom Strikers, in 2021. Indonesian retailer PS Enterprise has claimed on their Facebook page that the listing was made because their supplier has confirmed the game will be released in 2021. Other retailers with a hold on, my page loaded funny. Other retailers with listings include Pakistani retailer Toy or Game and Singapore retailer Qshan, I think it is, both of which state a release date of February 23rd, 2021. Now,
is that like a Western import for them, or are we talking like when Play Asia gets the Southeast Asia release?
I'm glad you asked. So the listings are for a Region 3 English release, which is a release for the South Asian market. As such, this version of the game would likely be published by Sega's Asia branches and not Atlas West. Previously, Persona 5 Royal received a R3 English release, which coincided with the game's Western localization. The Chinese and Korean language Region 3 releases for Persona 5 Scramble were previously launched on June 18th, 2020. A recent Koei Tecmo financial report confirmed that a Western release is planned for Persona 5 Scramble: The Phantom Strikers. This mention was later removed from its second quarter report. Persona 5 Scramble: The Phantom Strikers was released on the PS4 and Nintendo Switch on February 20th, 2020 in Japan. The action RPG was released on June 18th, 2020 in Asia and South Korea.
Okay, so you know what that sounds like then? It's sort of what I had a feeling. It means that over in Japan and that it sounds like it was either co-published or published by Koei themselves. And it means that they're probably pursuing internal Sega arms to publish here, which would mean Atlas over here and whatever the Sega, if they have an abbreviated name for their Asian releases.
Now, do you think we'll see this on the 23rd? Or do you think we'll see this later?
I don't know. 23rd of what month? Sorry?
February, which would be the end of the financial quarter.
Yeah, they'd want it before. Yeah, a lot of companies, it's March 1st or it's March, the end of the month. Yeah, I think it would be February. Here's the question. Do you think we get the Switch release, or is it only going to be one platform?
I think you'll probably see both. I mean, honestly, Nintendo has one of the largest install bases in the world.
But
why not?
The games have never been available on that platform. So I think it's 50-50 because they may determine that it's cheaper and during the pandemic to only do one language port. And then if they do that, will the Switch then get like a special complete edition fancy thing later on, where they do like their own special version, or they do both? But I'm wondering, I don't think this would show up we haven't had a state of play, and we might get one in January, right? To probably, the rumor is, announce a release date for Ratchet and Clank and Gran Turismo, because I think the talk is some of those have been submitted for Korean rating board already.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that usually happens within a month or so of them announcing. So do you think they do a state of play and then show it off? Or do you think we would get a Nintendo Direct? Are they done just doing directs, and is it only partner directs now?
I don't know. I mean, I think we'll see one more before the end of the year, personally.
No, they said they're done. They said they said it was the last partner direct for the year. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a mini, but like, you would think that wasn't it March 2nd or 3rd or 4th maybe when the Switch came out in 2017? Maybe if it's going to come out, it might be February, or maybe they'll wait till March to release it in the West so that Nintendo can do it at like their 4th anniversary announcement or something, or something. We're going to see, I think, a lot of these game announcements happen in January that would have been announced in like November. Or, question, do you think we see it for either platform at the Game Awards?
That's a really good thing, actually, to suggest that, because the game
that's the 10th.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good thing, because that's how they announced Joker in Smash.
And remember, they even had, when Persona 5, the original version, came out, they had the orchestra play the song and everything. Like, it won a bunch of awards. Like, it was heavily featured, and now it's become a sort of phenomenon. Plus, we've got the Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne remaster coming out. It's already out in Japan, I think, now.
Yep.
We're getting it in the spring, plus the 5th. So maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe Nintendo is pushing it. I don't think it would be a case if we only get the Nintendo version, but I'm hesitant to figure out which version would be best. I'm assuming PlayStation, because even if there were like performance bugs, and we know that a lot of the Warriors games can have frame rate issues on the Switch because of the Switch's aging hardware at this point. It was already like the Tegra X1 chip that was in the Switch was 3 years old when they announced the Switch. So we're now dealing with 7-year-old mobile hardware. So it's a fantastic piece of hardware that they can get, mileage out of. But those kind of games where there's like lots of stuff happening on screen, it can slow down to a crawl in some cases. Whereas if we play it, if it's a PS4 release, in quotes, we just pop it in our PS5, or you could put a digital copy, and play it on your PS5, and it will just brute force and smooth all that crap out, even if it doesn't get a native code version. So it'll be interesting to see if they determine that, it's better to not put out a Switch version or something, because Sega's generally pretty good with making sure that their Western releases are up to snuff performance-wise. So they'll obviously determine it, but I think we'll probably see a teaser in December.
I'm hoping, because I'm really excited to play it. I've already read the plot synopsis.
I'm going in cold because I purposely don't want to know anything.
It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool.
I know it takes place after after the ending. After the true ending, right?
Yes. Now, if you really want to impress the hell out of me, include characters from Royal.
Yeah, because I know that the true ending of Royal is slightly different. So, you think maybe they'll add like a little teaser thing, like a bonus section with like a mission or two? It doesn't even have to be much. Maybe they can't include them as playable characters, but maybe give us a cutscene where they phone somebody.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if they could figure out a way to work Kasumi into Phantom Strikers, I would be really
maybe work your guidance counselor in some way.
I think that'd be cool. I would definitely be up for that. So moving on to our next story, sticking with the world of entertainment and video games, we're going to check out our favorite British spy, and that is coming courtesy of IGN.com. Hitman developer announces new Bond game, Project 007, a James Bond origin story from the makers of Hitman. Hitman developer IO Interactive has announced Project 007, a new James Bond game. Announced in a teaser trailer earlier this week, IO describes the game as a wholly original Bond story, which players will step into the shoes, I guess, of the world's favorite secret agent to carry out their 00 status in the very first Bond origin story. In active development for consoles and PC, Project 007, a working title, will be created on IO's own Glacier engine, which is used for the most recent Hitman games. It's not exactly clear what kind of game Project 007 will be, but given IO's history with stealth and espionage games, the studio's Hitman model seems like a potentially close fit. The point about this being the first James Bond origin story is slightly confusing, given that Casino Royale features Bond earning 00 status, and therefore has been a series of young Bond books written by writer Charles Higginson. We've asked for clarification on that. The game is being made in collaboration with Bond movie studios MGM and Eon Productions. No release date or actors have been announced at the time of writing.
Best guess? Best guess? I would say, personally, it's not an origin story. You might see flashbacks of Casino Royale. It's going to be his first mission after Casino Royale.
I'm not entirely sure. They could go any number of different ways with this. So there is a quote here. It's true that once in a while that the stars do align in our industry, says IO CEO Hakan Abrakin, I think that's how I said his name, in a press release. Creating an original Bond game is a monumental undertaking, and I truly believe that IO Interactive, working closely with our creative partners at Ion and MGM, can deliver something extremely special for our players and communities. Our passionate team is excited to unleash their creativity into the iconic James Bond universe and craft the most ambitious game in the history of our studio. Currently, IO is both recruiting for the project in Copenhagen and Malmo Studios. There's also been a small matter of Hitman 3, which of course comes to consoles on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Series S, blah, 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 blah. You get the point.
And an amazing, honestly, amazing looking streaming version on the Switch, I think.
But they're talking about a cloud version for the Switch.
Yeah,
so that's neat.
And hey, surprise, surprise, it's using, people don't realize this, it's using Stadia in the background.
Like, I am excited for this.
I can say that I did a little research, and Nintendo signed a multi-year deal with Google to use their Stadia cloud backing, customized for the streaming. So it's not Stadia itself, but it's using the same underlying tech, which I'm assuming is going to give Google a lifeline, having Nintendo sign with them. But they're doing that with Control as well. And the results, I'm assuming you have to have a good wireless connection, or actually, I think it even says on the trailer for it, they suggest you buy one of those USB adapters and have yourself wired in. But like, that's really one of the only ways you're going to be able to play these high-end games on the current console. So I was blown away when I saw the trailer saying like, wait, Hitman's going to work and it doesn't look like garbage.
I will be surprised. I don't know whether I'm going to buy Hitman 3. I'm kind of up in the air about it. I really liked Hitman 1 and 2 once I learned how to play them, like kind of properly. Basically, this is not Call of Duty or Metal Gear Solid. Treat it differently and you'll have a much better time.
I haven't played since like the first 2 Hitmen.
The
like
last one that came out, Hitman 2, I played on the Xbox One. And I really liked it. Like once I got the hang of it, the mission I enjoyed the most is one of the really early ones. You go to like this party and you can,
is that the Paris one?
I think so. It's like at like the Paris fashion show and you can beat up somebody who's like this eccentric, like dressmaker or something. So I took him as a disguise and then I like spaz 12 to everybody. So yeah, that was fun.
Well, I remember playing the original and at the time, like we're talking, what is Hitman Codename 47 is what, almost 20 years old now?
It's
maybe
old.
It's about there. And playing it on my PC, like I had a pretty good gaming PC for the time. And like just the whole, wait, I can choose how to kill the person and all I have to do is not get caught. Like being able to go to a bathroom, putting a gun in a stall, walking out and then like waiting till they go to the bathroom, walking in behind them, grabbing the gun, killing them, and then like leaving them in a stall, climbing out a window, going down into a drain and walking out, walking in the sewer. And I'm like, okay, so that's how you win. And I'm like, oh wait, that's one way to win. There were so many other ways to do it. That was revolutionary, 20 years ago. And now from the graphics I've seen, I didn't play Hitman 1, I guess the remake of Hitman or reimagining. And that's when it didn't sell the way they wanted because they did it like episodic or something.
Yeah.
And Square was like, it didn't sell because people don't want to pay $50 for every episode or whatever they were trying to charge. So they I think they either got rid of the company or they bought themselves out. And then they had the deal with Warner, I think, to distribute. And now I think they're self-publishing because the second game did so well. So it'll be interesting. And they have that engine down pat. It's basically James Bond. You just need to have a main character that talks and has a smarmy James Bondy sort of attitude. And then, what if you mixed in some parts, like when you're having when you're not killing people or sneaking around, you might have areas where you're sitting down drinking and talking with people. Mix in a little bit of your Mass Effect dialogue where you have some dialogue trees that, and depending on what you say to people, will change their actions. Like maybe if you're aggressive, that means they'll have more security next time you see them. Or if you're more playful, a certain way you could do something. Or maybe there's the Bond girl there and you could charm your way into her bedroom and that's how you could, she could like unlock a door for you. Like there's so many things they could do there. They have the actual like spy stealth stuff down pat. And it's just about introducing maybe a more robust dialogue system. So It sounds like it's going to be a big project, and it's what we're looking at a few years away at least.
Probably. I mean, it's something that I think will be really good for the franchise. It's been a long time since we've had a good James Bond game. I mean, most of them have been FPS.
Wasn't From Russia with Love good?
Yes, From Russia with Love was really good. There's a really good documentary on YouTube where a guy goes through the development of each James Bond game. And it's really, really well done. I can't remember who did it, though. But if you type in James Bond video game documentary, I'm sure it'll pop up. Okay, so our last story this week, again, concerns the video game industry. And if you're involved in the Twitch world, which we are starting to look at now, this will be important for us to take note. So according to Kotaku.com, new Cyberpunk 2077 mode will help streamers avoid DMCA takedowns. It's been a long month for Twitch streamers who've spent the last 30 days weathering an ongoing DMCA storm with a few signs of reprieve. Last week, CD Projekt Red announced it's added a new mode to Cyberpunk 2077 with this show-stopping dilemma in mind. During the latest installment of the long-form Cyberpunk commercial series Night City Wire, UK head of communications Holly Bennett explained the game will have a mode that will not only remove licensed music from the in-game rotation, but replace it with music that won't get creators' channels zapped out of existence. Handy. If you're planning on live streaming Cyberpunk, or if you want to make videos, we want to introduce you to a new mode that will allow you to disable certain copyrighted tracks, Bennett said. We know that content creators' licensed music can sometimes be problematic. So with this new mode, you'll be able to disable a small number of selected tracks, which could cause some issues, replacing them with a different song, helping to avoid any problems.
So
On console,
it puts Muzak in, like it puts the ripoff songs that are just changed enough but keep the same mood. That's pretty cool.
On console, this mode will be automatically enabled should you choose to stream, but you can toggle it on and off. On PC, the mode won't auto enable functionality. While features like this have appeared in a handful of other games, for example, Remedy's 2016 action game Quantum Break, which I really enjoyed. It was
a lot better than people gave credit for.
Mm-hmm. They're still far from an industry-wide norm in light of recent events. However, expect them to become a lot more common in the near future. Kotaku has reached out to CD Projekt Red for additional information about how long this feature has been in the works, what kinds of songs will take the place of licensed music, but the company declined to comment, but said there will be more details coming soon. Still, at the very least, this means streamers won't have to disable music entirely, which can ruin the mood of a game for streamers and viewers. It's still far from an ideal situation, nothing short of Amazon and Twitch striking a licensing deal with the music industry would be, but for now, it will have to do. And in other Cyberpunk news, literally like an hour or two before the show went live today, or as of this recording on Sunday, somebody has gotten a hold of retail copies of Cyberpunk
Expect
PS4.
A lot of bands are, the second you play online,
done.
You're not gonna be banned from the game. You're gonna be banned from the PlayStation Network. And it won't just be that they permaban your MAC address. They're gonna permaban your email address, the console, email address, and credit card. So anybody with your name will be gone.
My guess is expect a lawyer to show up with a cease and desist and a lot worse.
You won't just get a cease and desist. You'll get a $1 million lawsuit if you leak it or more.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly.
Nintendo's done worse for smaller titles. This is the largest title of the year. Doesn't matter if to us Final Fantasy was a larger title, and it was a large title. This is the largest game of the year. It's the largest game of maybe the generation. If you are somebody who is leaking stuff ahead of time, or you're somebody that rips it and puts out like a pirated copy on PC out there or something, and they catch you, you are done. Like done. The only thing that could be bigger than this is whenever they come out with Grand Theft Auto, 6 or 7 or whatever the hell it's going to be. That would be a title that's bigger, but like, and also don't be an asshole right now. Like this, it's been a hard enough time getting these games ready. So this game will be in the wild, unpatched. So you could argue as the developer that anything that somebody says about this or shows footage of it could be damaging to your brand because they don't have the day one patches.
Yeah, that's something that I saw pop up on Twitter and Reddit about this. They're like, this isn't the final version. There's no day one patch. This is not good. And this isn't even in the hands of reviewers at IGN and places.
This is in the hands of scummy dude bros.
Yeah, I think the location I saw on one of the tweets where this guy was trying to sell it, I might add, was Jacksonville, Florida. Which
turns out, depending on the state, depending on the country, it is illegal because it's like, oh, you have it so you can sell it. Not necessarily. There's certain agreements involved. We saw what happened when people were streaming reviews and putting out reviews ahead of time before a game's embargo date is up. You can be sued for even releasing information before a game comes out, let alone selling something that's not officially on the market yet.
Yeah, like I've seen people even locally selling games before they come out. I saw it happen with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 all those years ago. I've seen it happen with I think Titanfall was one that I saw it happen with.
It's different for movies too. Like sometimes you'll see stores break street date or people have copies of movies and TV shows early. There's different, because it's from an older system, there's different rules involving that. A store might not be able to accept it or sell it, but video games and interactive media are actually from a different category, and they're newer, so they have different rules that pertain to them. And you think, I can stream whatever they want, I own it. You don't own jack shit. You might own the plastic the disc is on, but the second you start that game, you agree that to their terms, and if their terms say that you stream it before it's available, they could sue you for tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, basically, don't fuck. I mean, hell, it's Cyberpunk. If there's anything that game should teach you, because I've been reading the rule book for a while, I'm going back into a deep dive right now. Don't fuck with mega corporations. Don't fuck with Arasaka security. It's not going to end well for you.
As bad as it is, like, you know, the people over at CD Projekt are good when it comes to public relations and consumer friendly. Just be glad that this isn't an EA or Activision game, because they would send the bloodhounds after you.
Yeah, there would be men in very dark uniforms and mirrored sunglasses at your door saying, "Excuse me, I believe you have something."
Or actually, thank the stars it's not a Nintendo title.
Yeah, Mario's coming to your house with a pipe wrench.
It's a Mario. Grab his legs. and all you hear is clang, clang as they're smacking you with the wrenches. That's what happens. You don't mess with little Italian plumbers.
It's true.
They got that racket down, Pat, from New York City, right?
Exactly.
You don't mess with them. Hey, to hold his legs down, you off. Luigi, fuck his legs up. Fuck his legs up. And Luigi, and he calls in everybody, and it's like Princess Toadstool, close the door and lock it. That's what would happen. You'd be done.
They're got a black bag, yeah.
Yoshi's over in the corner cowering because he knows what's happening next. Out comes Wario, and he puts down these goggles and he lights up a blowtorch, and that's the end. That's what happens when you try to release a Mario game early.
That's right. They will find you.
He's friendly, but he don't fuck around.
So that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News this week on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We're going to take a small break. We're going to hear a review from me, and we're going to travel to the far future of, I think, 2378. Either way, it's Star Trek Adventures. This is Back to Reality from Modiphius.
For any event, there is an infinite number of possible outcomes. Our choices determine which outcomes will follow. But there is a theory in quantum physics that all possibilities that can happen do happen in alternate quantum realities.
Hey guys, Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk to you about yet another RPG supplement, this one coming to us from Modiphius. This is Star Trek Adventures Back to Reality by Fred Love. You can pick this up for $5 over at Drive-Thru RPG. A review copy was provided to us for the purposes of this review, but it actually turns out I did buy a copy of this before that review copy got sent over, so just a little bit of disclosure there. So, this takes the idea that Starfleet has sent you to this asteroid belt that is throwing off all these really strange quantum readings, and they want to know why, as it may cause trouble for space travel in this sector, because quantum realities and that sort of thing is bad for business, trade, etc. It may cause problems. So unfortunately, because it's a really densely packed asteroid belt, they can't send in your starship directly to retrieve samples or sensor readings because of all the quantum interference. You actually have to take a shuttlecraft in there and extract samples from some of these asteroids, and you got to do that via a EVA suit. So you go there, you extract samples, cool. However, as you do that, you run into a crew of doppelgangers from a different quantum reality, which, big surprise, they come from a place that's very, very, very bad. The adventure's set in the TNG era, and it kind of uses the Borg as a threat, though you could adapt this to TNG to be the Klingons or the Romulans. Things are bad, and the idea is these survivors are going to use what they find in this asteroid belt. They think there's a technology hidden here which may turn the tide against the Borg, and I'll use that for the rest of this review, and they want to use it against them to wipe out the Borg in their quantum reality. However, as they tell you this, you get pulled into a different quantum reality, and then all of you are trapped there, but there's this giant space station that is actually what the system used to be. It actually turns out it was run by a race of aliens known as the Sculptors who could reshape reality to their whims. However, because they kept reshaping reality so often, it's like using the Infinity Gauntlet so many times. Eventually something's going to break, and they used it so many times that the entire race of the Sculptors was wiped out from every quantum reality. There's nobody left. Only their technology remains. So the bad guys, and I'll call them that, want to use this technology to wipe out the Borg from their quantum reality as the Federation has been assimilated or taken over. It's bad for the Alpha Quadrant, all things considered. So you obviously want to get home, but if you work with them, it poses interesting questions near the end. Do you help them accomplish this goal of essentially genocide? Or do you say, no, we'll help you get home, but we're not going to let you do this? And then it can end in a fight. It can end in several different ways. And that's where this adventure gets really interesting, because this has the potential to break the game, in my opinion, but in an interesting way, because your player characters can use this device to reshape quantum realities as well. Although the book does caution you, don't let them do anything too crazy. That's just good game mastering. It's like giving someone a deck of many things or access to the wish spell in D&D. It can break your game if you're not smart, so be careful on how you do it. And that's essentially what you're doing, is handling the Star Trek characters a wish spell. So they say, let's say the doppelgangers are successful, they wipe out the Borg, that will ripple into your quantum reality. Now, it can be something really small, or it can be something really big. Like, for example, when you go back to your ship, maybe instead of a Nebula class, it's a Galaxy class now, and it's a different name, but the crew's the same. Or people that were alive in your reality are now gone, or stuff like that. It's little things. Or the people from that quantum reality decide maybe they don't want to go home, and they want to stay with you, and that introduces new NPCs to your crew. Or maybe they are successful, and they take you captive and bring you back to this Borg infested Alpha Quadrant, but I guess now that they've been successful, there's nothing left there. So how do you rebuild the Federation from that? Or what are the repercussions of that? I like the idea that this back to reality adventure opens up. I think there's a lot of really interesting possibilities here, and I think that's the idea. Quantum realities, what's possible. It could break the game, and it could not. And I like they also introduce a table where you roll a 20-sided dice and they decide what the doppelgangers are different. Like, there's one of them, I think it says you have a Borg implant that you've taken from one of the first drones that you've killed. Or when you meet the doppelganger crew, let's say one of your PCs isn't there, you might ask, say, hey, where's Lieutenant so-and-so? They'd be like, oh, yeah, we don't talk about so-and-so. Maybe he was assimilated. Maybe he did something valiant. Or maybe she did something so terrible that they just don't talk about it anymore. I love that idea. I like the fact that you can cross into their world, or they can cross into our world. There's a lot of possibilities here. I really think this is a steal. This is a really cool idea. And for $5, not bad. This would be something I'd love to play with in Star Trek Adventures. As like I said, this reminds me very much of that episode in Season 7, I think it was, of TNG, where Riker and that Enterprise come from a Federation that's been taken over by the Borg, and things are bad. I love that idea. I love the Borg as a bad guy, though don't use them too often. You will water them down. So anyway, that is Star Trek Adventures Back to Reality by Fred Love. Do I give it a recommend? You know what? For $5, why the hell not? I think it's cool. I think it's a wonderful setup. Just a caution for people running this adventure. If anybody decides to use the Sculptor's machine, it's like a D&D wish spell. Be smart with it.
We won't go back. You don't know what it's like in our universe. The Federation's gone. The Borg is everywhere. We're one of the last ships left, please. You've got to help us.
I'm sorry, there's no choice. If this works, everything will return to...
No, we won't go back!
Oh, crazy?
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
All right, so we have once again brought ourselves into this quantum reality, though not through the use of quantum entanglement. I am, of course, Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, the producer. Well, let's talk about the strange things that are happening in this plane of existence. This is the weird news. Our first story comes courtesy of thenerdist.com, and Pizza Hut is selling a weighted blanket. Winter is coming, and it's going to be a long one, but this year's chili season can also be a warm and delicious one. Pizza Hut has announced a limited edition weighted blanket so pizza lovers can climb underneath and feel like they've just came out of the oven themselves. Gravity Blanket and Pizza Hut have teamed up for a very special order. The original pan weighted blanket coming in at a toasty 15 pounds. It's made to look like a full pepperoni pizza, and at 72 inches in diameter, it's definitely a large pizza. The blanket features a premium micro fleece duvet cover to comfort and soothe, mimicking the unbeatable feeling of indulging in an original pan pizza. The chain says the blanket's therapeutic power of deep touch pressure stimulation makes it perfect for fans to snuggle up under this winter if they're looking for an improved sleep and reduced anxiety. The blanket would also do without the comfort and warmth it provides. Living in a giant replica of a pizza will reduce stress too, minus the part where we crave pizza even more than we do now, which is already a lot. There's no better way to close out 2020 than eating a Pizza Hut original pan pizza, well wrapped in the warmth and comfort of the original pan weighted blanket, says George Felix, Chief Marketing Officer of God, that's loud, of Pizza Hut in a press release. This partnership with Gravity Blanket was the perfect solution to bring one of our legendary pizzas to life, bringing our fans a little TLC at the time. This limited edition blanket comes with a seemingly weighty price of $150, but that's actually 25% discount compared to the Gravity's full weighted blankets. You can order yours over at originalpanblanket.com while supplies last. If you're planning on getting one, we suggest you hurry because those limited supplies won't last long. Now, I looked into this.
Okay.
I was curious.
All I heard, my brain glazed over when I heard you say, did you say deep pressure touching?
Deep touch pressure stimulation.
Oh, yeah. That sounds worse even than I was thinking.
Yeah. So I did some reading into this, and I was curious because as of 2 or 3 days ago, you could still order this. So $150. That's a lot. Translated in the Canadian, that's about $220, give or take. Okay.
But it's less money than it would cost to get that many pizzas that would cover your body.
Yeah. So it is expensive, but probably it's cool. It is interesting. So that being said, I looked into it further. It costs internationally to ship to Canada $80.
Fuck that.
And that's when I tapped out because
like,
$80 is like 120 American.
Unless you can get that on Amazon Prime, no thanks.
Yep. But that is still cool. And it also comes in a thick and comforting heavy original pan pizza box, which is, again, quite cool looking.
I'll bet you it's the box that costs a lot. Like, if they scrunch that thing up, you saw how they can ship mattresses. Like, you can ship a king mattress in the size of a mini fridge box now, right? When they're all memory foam. Like, that's how you save money. That's why sometimes it's like, oh my God, you'd figure the mattress would be like $200 to ship. Well, the reason it only costs you $20 or can be free on Amazon is when they package it down that small. But if they're making this custom pizza box size thing, then it's an awkward size, and that's where you get dinged on shipping.
Well, yeah, it's size and weight because it's a weighted blanket you're paying for shipping, and
which I don't like. People like it. I like in my case, somebody like with my disability, I have highly sensitive pressure to pressure on my legs, so I barely can sleep with covers on my legs or it'll hurt. So I wouldn't want a weighted blanket. I understand what some people want it because apparently it helps you sleep when you feel like you're being snuggled or whatever. But I wouldn't mind getting a 10-foot by 10-foot blanket that's like a micro fleece. It would be like, it would weigh like nothing but like feathers, but it would still cover your whole body and keep you warm. Yeah, I would totally do that. You could probably get that shipped to you for like $1. But
yeah, actually, speaking of micro fleece, my sister Katie just sent me a really late birthday gift, and it's a micro fleece blanket that looks like a kitty. and it's
that's
remarkably warm. It's really, 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 really.
It's not
really
late.
Nice.
She's on French Canadian time.
Yeah, so
things move a little slower.
So yeah, like it's really, really, really nice. But I just don't know about a blanket that weighs 15 pounds.
Well, that's my thing. Like, if a regular blanket that I'm wearing, if in my case it's like, oh, that's too much pressure on my legs,
you'll notice it.
Like, you'll really notice it. Like, I wouldn't want that. Like, I'm the kind of guy where I'd rather have more pillows. It's like, oh, if I want that, I'll just cover my face in a pillow and feel like I'm being smushed. I don't need a blanket like that. I understand why it exists. It would almost be something you'd want for your couch for like 2 or 3 people to use.
Yeah.
But I don't think you could properly sleep with that unless you're somebody who loves that feeling of the weighted. But I've seen weighted blankets that are king size ones that are up to 50 pounds. And I'm like, at 50 pounds,
that's a person.
Now, of course, it's supposed to be spread out amongst the whole size of the mattress, or sorry, of the duvet. But it's like, that's too much. Like, it's got to be hard to breathe when you have something that heavy on you.
Now, Blair's aunt, before she passed away last year, when I was in the hospital back in 2017, they made me a blanket out of t-shirts that I had gotten over the years from like promos and all that shit. And it's a pretty heavy blanket, because I think you've actually used it when you've been
I've used it once, but that's like a quilt.
Yeah, and it's heavy, but it's not weighted.
It may be a 10-pound quilt, but a weighted one means it's not just the edges. It means the whole thing has a weight to it. So, like, and they do make them to different degrees of weighting, obviously. But having one that's 15 pounds is like having 3 covers on top of you pressed together.
Mm-hmm. I will say this for this blanket: it looks the part. It looks fantastic.
I saw it, but I've seen ones advertised on Facebook that are like different patterns on them, and they seem lighter. They're not even weighted, but they're just regular blankets, but they're 10 feet by 10 feet. And that's a big cover. And so you can, wrap up the whole family in that, or you could fold it in half and put it on your queen size bed, and you basically have 2 layers then. So you could do that. And a lot of those ones, even those cheap ones, and they're obviously like manufactured in China or someplace, they have free delivery anywhere in the world. So unless you absolutely positively must have a pizza blanket.
Yeah, I mean, you're buying this for the brand name, probably quality, and for the meme.
Yeah, I'm assuming the quality would be good, because, weighted blankets are all the rage now. And I was looking, like, there's a local import-exporter here, the KW Imports. They run out of a warehouse now because they had to shut down their business because, what's going on this year. But they have 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 pound weighted blankets of different sizes, and I think that they offer a king size in like the standard weighted blanket. It's like $80, so you can get a good one with a high thread count and all that for under 100. So you really are paying for the novelty of having that. And
if that isn't the most 2020 thing you've ever heard, I don't know what is.
Yes.
So moving on to our next story. This one comes courtesy of Blog TO. This happened not too far from where we are in the TWIG studios. A sinkhole has filled with a glowing green liquid found in the middle of a Toronto street. Grab your buckets, folks. Toronto just got itself a good old-fashioned slime hole right in the middle of trendy Leslieville. Kidding, sort of. There is, in fact, a sinkhole on Hastings Avenue between Queen and Dundas Streets East, filled with bright green liquid that looks exactly like the ooze that birthed everyone's favorite anthropomorphic crime-fighting squad of bros, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Is this a PR stunt for the TMNT franchise? Some sort of chemical leak? The site where YTV dumped all its leftover slime from the zany kids show Uh-Oh back in the 90s? Nah, according to the city of Toronto, it's just liquid colored with a non-toxic dye to see if the mysterious sinkhole connects to any sewers. The city has yet to determine, for at least reveal, what caused the sinkhole on Hastings Avenue, but at the sight of it giving many people pause as they walk by on the scene, more likely to see images of the slime hole on social media. I mean, look at it. You don't see anything like this every day. Interesting as the goo may look, I'd recommend staying away from this particular hole of slime. Images posted to a Leslieville Facebook page before it was filled with water suggest there's quite a deep cavern under there. The city of Toronto has yet to return a request for comment about what's being done to remedy the problem or when the street will reopen again. Only time will tell. Only time will tell, rather, how long Toronto's newest quirky attraction will stick around.
It looks like Bane Venom.
It looks exactly like the ooze from TMNT 2012. Like, ridiculous.
Also, it looks like, you remember in Goosebumps when they had like the plant, was it Don't Go Into the Basement, with the plants that had like, they were growing people plants, and then they had like green oozy, or like monster blood, I think was another one. It looks like something out of Goosebumps.
Yeah, like it is so fluorescent green. Yeah, it virtually glows. Like it looks incredibly cool in a weird sort of way.
Taste it. It's non-toxic. I want to see somebody scoop it up and drink some.
No.
They said non-toxic. If it says non-toxic, it means you can drink it.
Now, this would have been really funny if this was a PR stunt for a movie. Another thing they could have done is in Ghostbusters 2, they could have, if this dye was bright, vibrant pink, this could have been mood slime.
We should. I'm waiting, not just because it's Ghostbusters. I'm waiting for Dan Aykroyd to show up and start talking about Sci Factor and like do a whole episode on the ooze of Toronto.
One of the things we were talking about in one of the Discord groups, if you guys remember, one of the podcasts that I was a part of for years was Terrible Warriors. And they're like, Mike, is this viral marketing for a Ghostbusters sequel? And it's funny, in one of the RPG stories that I did for that group, we had it so there was a mood slime farm. The Ghostbusters that were in charge of Toronto were farming mood slime under the air. That
was a good episode. That was a good campaign.
Yeah, and that one was a lot of fun. And the main reason I put the mood slime under the Air Canada Center is because everybody loves the Leafs despite how terrible they do, and everybody loves the Raptors despite how terrible they do. So what better place?
Wait. Terrible they did.
Terrible they did.
Remember, they are our champions.
That's right. Still. So yeah. I always thought that was a really clever idea for that episode. So yeah, I would revisit it.
So you didn't do the I guess the Rogers Center Sky Dome because people still remember when the Jays won 2 years in a row.
Yep. I remember watching that live on my old antenna.
It was 2 years of nothing but Jays merch everywhere.
Yep. Every kid had it, windbreakers, everything.
This I can't remember. Is this the Ghostbusters campaign? Was it a haunted theme park as well, or was that another one?
That was the first one. That was the Haunting at Santa's Village, which is yet another Ontario landmark. And I involved the crew from Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to listen to it, I believe they've updated the Terrible Warriors website to show some of the original campaigns. So if you don't get our references, it's worth checking out because these were good campaigns.
Yeah, I would also recommend Friday the 13th, Strive to Survive, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Paradise Lost, and Star Wars. Basically, any of the Star Wars games that I did. Those were a lot of fun. All right, so moving on to our next story, and this one comes courtesy of the NewYorkPost.com, so think of it what you will. Santa Claus is immune to COVID-19, says Dr. Anthony Fauci.
End of story. That's it.
Yep. Santa will be spreading lots of joy, not COVID-19, when he visits millions of homes this Christmas. That's because Kris Kringle is immune to coronavirus, according to the nation's top infectious disease experts. Santa is exempt from this because Santa, of all the good qualities, has a lot of good innate immunity, says Dr. Anthony Fauci told USA Today. That's good news for the most elusive man in the world, who'd be considered high risk for a serious case of COVID with his global travels, obesity issues, and history of smoking. Santa's staggering age of 1,750 wouldn't help either, with the bug inordinately affecting those 60 or older.
But don't forget, he isolates up in the north. He lives with people that aren't even humans, that can't spread it to him with the elves. It's him and his wife and a bunch of animals and then proto-humans.
I guess Santa's social bubble would be small.
Well, remember he's wearing gloves when he's handing everything out, and he's dropping things down chimneys and shit.
But he is also eating all the milk in cookies, so potentially inducing a new infection vector.
Well, I don't know if I had heard that they're suggesting you don't leave cookies and stuff out for Santa this year, just to be safe.
Although in this story they do actually mention this actually. So the article goes on to say, but rest assured, one of the worst global health crises won't keep Santa down. Santa's not going to be spreading any infections to anybody, Fauci said. Thankfully, Santa's little helpers have been busy warding off the virus in the North Pole, according to Dr. Peter Hotz, Dean of the National Society of Tropical Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. I hear the ventilation in Santa's workshop is not the best, and opening the windows in the North Pole, North Pole's winters is problematic, Hotz has told USA Today. The good news is that mask compliance there is pretty good, and the elves are committed to social distancing. Miss Claus has implemented a program of regular testing, and the reindeers now lead contact tracing. Christmas outside of the comforts and safety of the home will look a little bit different this year. Santa's foregoing his usual holiday tradition of visiting the Macy's in Herald Square, but will be making many virtual appearances instead. Now, it's funny, my old hometown of Owen Sound in Ontario, last night, as of this recording, held a virtual and drive-through Santa Claus parade held by the local Kiwanis Club, and they were lined up for hours. And I was really impressed that they were doing that. Even some of the radio stations I listened to, because as you guys have heard me mention on the show, I listened to WMMR out of Philadelphia. They have it so Santa Claus will do virtual Zoom meetings with people.
Well, this is similar to, you remember early in the YTV days before it became kind of crappy, when YTV was still a very small run station. For the whole month of December, Santa Claus was there almost every day of the week, answering kids' questions and reading their letters to him, and telling them to be good and all that. Do you remember that sort of stuff happening all throughout the 90s? Santa Claus has his own show for basically a whole month.
I don't, because I didn't have cable, so I didn't get a chance to see YTV that often, but I do know what you are talking about.
Yes, I don't know if that was in the States or if it was elsewhere, but nationally in Canada, Santa Claus had a TV show that ran, if I remember correctly, several shows over the course of the month of December. Santa Claus was answering things, and you could write in letters, and he would talk to you and get you prepared and everything. And this is sort of like an extension of that, only on a more personal scale.
I do remember Nickelodeon and Fox Kids doing a lot of interactive kind of programming, although it was more with the local affiliates of Fox. They would have their own hosts for Saturday mornings sometimes with their Fox Kids blocks. I know Nickelodeon would have Santa Claus on around Christmas time, or they'd have Santa doing a voiceover over I don't know, Hey Dude or something. So there was always something. So I'm very glad that Santa is not going to get the coronavirus, because I can only imagine the damage that would do to a kid's psyche. Because this is not going to be a fun year for kids at school.
Well, and what they should be preparing for is that Santa Claus, just to be safe, might not be making as many presents for everybody. Maybe you'll get one.
I mean, honestly, I could see hand sanitizer ending up in a lot of stockings this year.
What I can see happening this year is them, if families can leave out a little thing of hand sanitizer and a mask for Santa, maybe Santa will take the mask when he visits you, so he can get a new one to go to the next house, and maybe half of the hand sanitizer will be used instead of cookies and milk.
There we go. Santa is being provided PPE. Okay, so
it's a good idea. If he goes house to house, have a new mask for every place he goes. Maybe a set of gloves for him every time too, and then they might be magically gone in the morning, so that you know that he got them.
It is a smart move. I do agree. So moving on to this last story. This one also happens locally in Toronto. This one comes courtesy of the TorontoStar.com. I'm hungry, Toronto man vows to eat a 14-year-old can of soup in hopes of raising $10,000 for a local food bank.
I thought you said... Oh, sorry, this isn't the story I got you. If I got you the story, it would have been man vows to eat 14-year-old.
Yes. So the Parkdale Community Food Bank is garnering attention on social media following a super, in quotation marks, interesting fundraising initiative after after being donated a 14-year-old soup. In an Instagram post made on Wednesday, the food bank announced that one of its community members has volunteered to eat a can of President's Choice chicken with egg noodle soup from 2006 if people donate $10,000 by November 25th. We posted the 2,000 can on our Instagram story, letting our community know to not donate items that are no longer safe for consumption, says Kitty Roman Costa, operations manager at the Parkdale Community Food Bank. One of our amazing community members, Oliver O'Brien, sent me a direct message and let me know he would eat the can of soup if our community rallied together and raised $10,000. In preparation for what can potentially be a very soupy mess, O'Brien says his training regimen has been rigorous and relentless, in quotations, ingesting samples of expired canned food, doing bicep curls of Campbell's chunky soup, and meditating in front of an Andy Warhol canned soup painting.
Dude, that this is amateur hour. Come back at me. I watch a guy out of the New England states on YouTube that regularly opens cans of food from like military rations from like the 1940s and 50s, and he'll make soup and be like, "That's gone rancid, but I'm only going to try a little bit." And I'm like, "What?" So there are people that do that just to see. I have in my possession. We must have got it. It has a sticker from Byway on it, so you know how old that is.
Mm-hmm.
But we have we won't make it. It's a Jello or Schiff or Shrift or whatever. One of the
weird pie fillings or whatever.
Well, it was like a Jello alternative from a separate company, and it has a best before 1972 date on it, and it's been with us through 3 or 4 house moves. We must have found it already being 20 some odd years old at a Byway, and it was in the back of our pantry, multiple moves, and my mom goes, "I'm going to throw this out," and I went, "No, that goes with me, and it stays with me till the end of time," because who else can say that on their pantry shelf? You'd be like, "Well, we could make Jello that I bought last month, or we could make the Jello that we bought 57 years ago," or something like that.
I think we should make that in 2021.
Oh, good Lord! The gelatin would break down. There might be some rancid parts of it. But it is funny that you can it's like, yeah, I got food on my shelf from, I don't know, the Carter era, or Nixon was just kicked out.
So according to the article, it goes on to say, "Do I want 15 minutes of fame based on eating soup that was nearing legal drinking age?" Oliver O'Brien wrote in an email to the Star. The thing about food is that most people agree they would prefer to consume it before it passes expiry date, including Parkdale Community Food Bank clients. Just because someone is having trouble getting food doesn't mean they deserve to be giving something no one else wants to eat. People can donate money and comment on the Instagram post either to encourage O'Brien to eat the expired soup or to save him from the challenge. This is huge for an organization such as ours that receives no consistent government funding, says Roman Costa. As of Saturday, almost $5,000 has been raised in total, with the majority of people donating to encourage O'Brien to eat the old soup.
Yes.
When asked what would happen to O'Brien was saved from eating the can of soup, she says the food bank can't control his choice. He may still eat the soup if he's feeling hungry. It is unclear where the donation came from, though the food bank said they have a history of being donated expired items, the oldest being a packet of, as you mentioned, Jello from 1997.
Oh man, I didn't even know that. Because that's stuff you think it lasts forever till you look at the stamp on the bottom.
Yep. If you would like to donate some non-perishables, just consider this. Would you eat it yourself? O'Brien adds. A recent report found that Toronto area food banks have been seeing a large surge in usage over the summer due to economic instability. Before COVID-19 pandemic, food bank use had already increased by 5% compared to last year, with close to 1 million visits in Toronto. According to O'Brien, the Parkdale Community Food Bank, with a small staff of 4, has seen 30% increase in usage over the course of the pandemic. More rising numbers across GTA food banks are also expected as the province breaks daily COVID-19 records and Toronto moves into lockdown on Monday, as that's today. In addition to raising money in this rather uncanny fundraiser, the food bank is also hosting a toy drive from November 23rd to December 13th. Unwrapped toys can be dropped off at the I can't pronounce this.
Remember, toys don't expire.
Yeah, toys don't expire. I mean, I'm great. grateful that this is raising money for this food bank.
Yeah.
Hopefully this guy doesn't get fucking botulism or something.
No, that's not, like I said, I've seen people eat a lot older. The way, I know a little too much about this from watching YouTube videos, but in the 90s, late 90s, they started to change how cans were sealed so that they would last longer. As long as there's no rust forming on the can when he opens it, it won't be contaminated. The way they used to make old cans was it was 2 or 3 pieces, and when it was sealed, it was like welded sort of, and there could be bits of rust that it could oxidize. The way the new cans are, the bottom part of the can is all one piece, and it's only the lid that gets like fused to it, right? So if you check the top of the can, if there's no bumping out or oxidization, it'll still be fine. It may not be as fresh, but you won't have, as long as there's no air or oxidation happening to it, it'll be fine. So it's going to taste bland, but it's like chicken noodle soup, so it's not going to be that great anyway. So boil the crap out of it, and you'll probably be fine.
I don't know. I wouldn't do it personally because, again, botulism.
Yeah. Like I was laughing. I'm laughing because I think it's funny. I'm not thinking that it's a good idea to be giving spoiled food to people. Obviously, I'm laughing that he's got such a good sense of humor about it, and he makes a good point of, don't give something that you wouldn't eat yourself. But the whole idea is, donate $10,000. I'm gonna eat this shit.
Now, when I stayed with my parents, kind of growing up, I remember I was rooting through the pantry once, and I was looking for something, and I remember opening it. I think I'm not 100% sure of that, but I remember the bottle, and this survived through multiple girlfriends. So this was over the course of multiple years. I first saw this in about 1997. It was a jar of Cheese Whiz from the 80s. No. So I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. And I just left it in the back of the cupboard, never to see the light of day again. Flash forward to when I'm engaged to Blair.
So we're talking like
2009.
Oh, good Lord.
So this
12 years go by.
Yeah. So 12 years go by. And I see this thing again, and I'm cleaning out my parents' fridge because it's migrated from the pantry to the fridge now.
Oh, no. That means it's getting ready for use.
I think it was used. When I threw it out, I took a picture, but I didn't save it to the internet at that time because it wasn't really easy to do that. It had an expiration date of the year 3000.
Are you serious?
I'm dead fucking serious.
And that wasn't like a lot date on it?
It said expiration date 30000 January. So yeah, I saw Cheese Whiz that wouldn't go back.
300. So I was going to say, it's not like it was. So could it have been January 30th, the year 2000?
Maybe, but I read it as January the year 3000.
Okay, because it sounds like it could have been. Yeah, it could have been. It's depending on the packaging. If you found it in 97, if it was a new thing they bought in 97. And it's that kind of food, the way it's processed, and see if it's sealed and not in a jar where, and the air bubble doesn't get to it, I could see it getting a 3-year life, but not if it's like an 80s one, and also it's 12 years past. It's like 9 years past at least.
When I saw it the first time, it was that light creamy color of Cheese Whiz, that more bright color.
But it was still probably old.
When I saw it again in 2009, it was this deep orange. It was the color of a traffic cone.
So it had become like, why does my cheese taste like egg yolk?
It was so weird looking. And I also remember finding salad dressings.
Now the question, salad dressings are the worst with my mom and grandparents.
Yep.
It's like, oh, it's this. I go to stop throwing out my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. It's like, you realize that this expired like 4 years ago. I'll throw it out if I want to. It still tastes fine. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Because that was a freaking argument I had.
Yeah. Old people and their salad dressings more than anything. And it's like, it's 3 or 4 years old. It cost you $1 3 years ago and you didn't eat it all. Maybe get a smaller bottle next time.
Or maybe just, if it's anything past a month of expiration, throw it the fuck out.
Like, I just realized my Jell-O is old enough to be a grandparent.
Oh boy. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News This Week. If you have the capability, folks, maybe find this food bank on Facebook. If you have the capability to donate, that'd be wonderful.
Even $1, you give $1 and, part of me is like, please vote for him not to eat it. But then secretly in my brain, I'm like, yes, eat that shit.
Either way, you're helping out a local food bank. So anyway, guys, we're going to take a small break here before we close up the show. And this is going to be Alex's review from Mill Creek Entertainment, I believe.
Yes, it should be the Inner Sanctum Mysteries, unless I'm wrong, but it should be that.
All right. So we will be back right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been Mike the Birdman. He's been Alex the producer. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Our friends at Mill Creek sent over another Blu-ray set. This is sort of, it's not really a TV show and not really a movie series in the same sense. It's sort of in that weird realm where before television was a thing, but not full feature length, like what we would consider feature length movies, but a series starring the same people in theaters. I'm sort of, before I lose you completely, what I'm talking about is the Inner Sanctum Mysteries, which is a film collection starring Lon Chaney Jr. That was released by Universal throughout the 1940s. So there's 6 movies, but they play out where it's introduced almost like a television show, where there's a similar introduction every time, and then there's different actors, but there's a few people that play the same roles. Think like Columbo or those Umbrella series where they would have like movie of the weeks, but it was movies, TV movies, but they would follow a plot and then get story driven character development as it goes along. But this is, back in television's infancy before TV was really a thing. Especially back in the time when TV that did exist was basically just broadcast live and was really low budget, like dinner theater. This was still a series of actual movies. So this was their way of trying to utilize talent, of having Lon Chaney Jr. on under contract and sort of build a series of mystery movies around characters. You saw some of that with other studios at the time, like Mr. Moto and was it Charlie Chan, a few others. This was like their bread and butter was the horror genre, obviously with the Universal monsters. So they went, well, maybe we can get a series that just sort of keeps going, that are your standard mysteries. And I had not heard of this before, but when we received it, I was pleasantly surprised that everything is spread across 2 discs. Now that seems like, hey, there's 6 movies. What's the quality going to be like? Well, they're black and white, so you don't have to worry about color saturation or blurriness or anything. They're, for the most part, very well preserved and remastered. The final film on here, Pillow of Death, is the only one that almost looks like a public domain print, in that it's a little darker than the rest, and the audio track was not preserved quite as well and feels more like when you would go and get like a bargain bin movie. The rest are remastered to like pristine quality. So I'm wondering if there was, issues with the initial preservation of the final film. That said, it's still completely watchable. It's just the others look much more like what you'd expect from a large studio remaster. So the 6 titles are Calling Dr. Death, Weird Woman, Dead Man's Eyes, The Frozen Ghost, Strange Confession, and Pillow of Death, as we talked about previously. They've also included a booklet with it that is on pretty high quality paper stock, and it comes with descriptions of the actual movies, as well as some still photos from them, and little advertising, the sort of stuff that they'll put in, with some trivia for the films in the back. And interestingly enough, the audio was something I was concerned with, because a lot of these old movies have really poor tinny sounding audio. Not here. It's actually pretty good, and they've done a good job of making it clear. It does come out in dual mono, so it'll be a left and right. When I hear stuff like that, I usually, on my own receiver will switch to a single channel mode so that it forces dual mono to come out of the center channel, because it was never intended for a wide stereo spacing, and it's just it's made for dialogue mostly with these films, and it comes out better out of my center channel anyway. They are in their original aspect ratio, so full screen, because this is pre-1950s when they had widescreen. But included is a making of that's actually a pretty decent documentary on here. It's this is the Inner Sanctum Making a Universal Mystery series. The creaking door entering the inner sanctum, and then there's audio commentary on a couple of the different movies. Not every one of them, but there is an audio commentary with film critics and historians, which is always good. It's nice to see that they included that on here, similar to what they did with the Hammer horror set that they came out with. And there's actually some original trailers and some poster galleries, so they've actually included a fair amount of stuff on here. I always like sort of discovering new series that I hadn't seen in the past, and it's interesting to see because these films are, not regular feature length. They're mostly pretty much all of them between an hour and 2 minutes and an hour and 7 minutes long. So it's the kind of thing that when you would go to see it in theaters, it would be a matinee movie. You would see maybe beforehand a cartoon short, and that would be maybe 8 minutes long or 5 minutes long, and you'd see maybe another short that was a comedy short or something that was another 8 or 15 minutes long, a 1 or 2 reel movie, and then you'd see this, and that's what would make up your hour and a half. Your standard sort of hour and 20 to an hour and a half that you had for feature length back then. Now, back then, feature length could be an hour long, but by the 40s, it had moved to about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. It wasn't an hour. So, it's the kind of thing that would have been in a 1.5 hour time slot on television with all the commercials. So it is like watching a precursor to what TV would be, just at a much higher budget than what the first 10 years of television actually was. Well worth picking up. Not too expensive, depending on where you're going to pick it up, on Amazon or from them directly. I'll put a link in the description for the show. If you got classic movie lovers, or you got a collector that likes Lon Chaney Jr., or if you're just interested in seeing what a proto television show movie of the week kind of thing was, 30 years before that became popular in the 70s and 80s, it's probably worth checking out.
I am the great Cornholio. I'm a gringo. I have no bunghole. Bunghole.
All right, guys. Well, that is the kind of show it has been here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We do thank you for checking in with us each and every week as we struggle through the year 2020. Coming up on the site this week, I will have my review and impressions of Cyberpunk Red from Our Talsorian Games. That should be out on Thursday evening. We will also be having a new episode of TWIG's Loose Cannon, where we talk about one of Alex's favorite movies, the Mel Brooks classic from 1974, Blazing Saddles. We'll be talking about that with Aaron Paulier. I think, has our Discovery episode come out yet?
Not as far as I can tell. There should be, I think, this week. Sometime either this week or the weekend, unless it's not done. Unless it's not edited, we should be having a new Future Imperfect on the first 4 episodes of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, where we thought initially there were 10 episodes of the season, but there's 13. So we're doing them instead of 3-episode chunks. It's 4-episode chunks, with the final episode being a finale / overall discussion. And that'll come out, I'm going to assume, sometime in January.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the way it's going. So we're now, 7 episodes in?
Yep.
So we should be doing a new one in the next couple weeks.
Yep. So be looking forward for that.
And same with, I think there's a new Nurture the Third episode coming soon, so we'll be syndicating that up.
Yep.
And then I think that's it for. Oh no, this week we will also have, so this episode's coming out on Monday, sometime before Friday. I'll say that we should have a quick prototype episode with the Canadian Black Friday deals.
Yeah, so be looking out for that. We pretty much follow a Twitter account online, which provides wonderful resources for Canadians. Yeah. It was instrumental in helping me score a PlayStation 5. So this guy is pretty legit. So we'll be talking about that and some of the things you can expect. You can get some deals right now.
I've been sent some information on some products that I have their Black Friday deals before they go live. So I have to double check when we're allowed to talk about them, and that's when you'll see the episode.
Yeah. Other than that, coming up from me, I know I'm supposed to record an episode of TWIG Sunday Funnies sometime soon. I've just been busy finishing up school and other projects. Working on reviews this week. I am working on The Legend of Zelda, Age of Calamity. I think that's what it's called.
Yep.
The Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule
game.
Warriors, yeah. The Breath of the Wild prequel Warrior style game.
Yeah, so I'm playing that on the Nintendo Switch. So I should have that. I will have that review for next week. Like I said, I'm going to talk about Cyberpunk on Thursday. I have a bunch of books from DK Publishing Canada I'm going to be going through. And I also have Tasha's Guide to Everything, which is the latest Dungeons and Dragons supplement.
Is that about Tasha Yar?
No, it's about a bunch of new character classes and magic and all sorts of cool things to do.
Oh, I have heard about that. It's supposed to be good.
Yeah, it looks really neat. So I'm going to see what that adds to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Also, an update. I've seen some of the finished artwork for the TWIG podcast for Stargate SG-1 when we start that, hopefully up in the new year. We're aiming for January. It's just going to depend a lot on school for me and me getting through the rule book, though we're supposed to see a download link for the book this week, and it should go.
And of course, COVID and people's work schedules and everything.
Yeah, so we will do our best to get that out, but I've seen some artwork. We have a fantastic person working on the theme song. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to starting SG-1 in hopefully about a week or so. Once again, folks, our gift guide comes out on December 7th with some of the materials we've received this past year, past and present. We'll be talking about some of the things that we recommend. Now, it will be split into two parts. One part you can hear us talk about as we pick 12 items. The other parts will be on the website. We can pick probably about 10 or 12 items where we talk about it for a paragraph a piece.
Yeah, so basically what we're going to have is in the description for the show when you download or listen or stream, to get the full guide, you'll click on the link in there and it'll go right to the posting on the website.
Yeah, so be looking out for that on December 7th. So until next time for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.